my place, my place. You wanna come to my place, my place. You wanna come over, you wanna come over. You wanna come to my place, my place. You wanna come to my place, my place. You wanna come to my place, my place. You wanna come over, you wanna come over, you wanna. Makes it so obvious. It's obvious, it's obvious now. We know it's obvious, obvious now. You wanna come to my place, my place. You wanna come to my place, my place. You wanna come to my place, my place. You wanna come over, you wanna come over. You wanna come to my place, my place. You wanna come to my place, my place. You wanna come over. You ain't never sober. You wanna come over. You ain't never sober, girl. You wanna come over. It's I wanna come over. It's obvious, though.
Hi, I'm John. I produce music under the name Proper Villains, and I'm teaching a course on how to program percussive sounds in Xtra Serum. I'm going to show you a quick lesson right now on how to make a TR-808 clap in Serum. Turn your level all the way down, then we're going to assign LFO 1 to the level. We're going to switch it to envelope, and we're going to turn off the BPM sync. Drag this to the left, and now we have a very basic noise pulse. So a clap's just sort of like a little pulse of white noise with teeth. So we're just going to go right in and draw the teeth. Turn on the distortion. We'll pick up our hard clip and just crank that baby. Bring the mix down a little bit. And there you go, a TR-808 clap in Serum. If you like what you've heard and I piqued your interest, check me out on soundcollective.com.
Want to thank Sisters in Sounds for hosting this event in conjunction with Sound Collective, and we just want to open the space to everyone.
People ask me all the time, Orianna, how do I get booked? How do I get booked? And
Right.
the truth is just make and play good frickin' music.
Give space, take space, but don't make yourself small. Establish your boundaries and stand firm.
I was motivated to enroll in the program because I wanted to take my music career to the next level. I had no technical music production skills before this. There's so many skills and so much knowledge that I gained. My favorite thing was, number one, learning all the different effects and features and how deep one can get. It kind of gave me the frame of mind to know, okay, this is what I need to know for now, and this is what I can know for later, which is a great starting point for me. The information and the knowledge I gained, I could apply immediately and go home and start playing around and start making music.
Welcome to Sound Collective membership. Join Sound Collective membership and get access to our facility and all the hardware equipment we have here on site. Today, we're talking about the Arturia Drum Brute analog drum synthesizer. This is a fully analog drum machine, which has very nice tactile controls, allow you to control the sounds and shapes of the various drums that are part of this drum synthesizer. We've got kicks, snares, claps, and various percussions, zaps, cymbals, etc. I can shape any one of these. I'm going to start with the kick. I can change the pitch, the decay time, the impact, and the sweep. Join Sound Collective membership, gain access to our facility, and make music with hardware today.
Cool, peace. My name is Pudge, AKA Pudge Mental. Born and raised in Jamaica, Queens, DJ, producer, MC, and educator. Been DJing for about 25 years now. Had the honor of DJing for Fat Lip from the Far Side, Micah 9 from the Freestyle Fellowship, Voice out of New Orleans, Eagle Nebula out of LA. We'll be teaching the art of mixing, which is transitions, going from one song to the next, holding some of those transitions, which can also be looked at as a mashup or a blend, remixing, and some basic DJing skills like cuts, scratches, and the idea of playing what you like and also catering to the crowd, and find that happy balance between introducing people to new music and also giving them a little bit of what they enjoy, and finding a creative way to do that. My teaching style is kind of like the Bruce Lee be like water. It's like the style of no style, whatever fits at the time. So if I see somebody needs a little bit more encouragement, I'll be a little bit more suggestive, or, maybe you could do this. Sometimes people get stuck and get caught in their head. I've seen students go from looking at the program like, what is this? What am I supposed to do here? To then having a full-blown remix that you can play out in the club tonight within a week and a half, 2 weeks, and that's great.
Well, I want to welcome everybody here to the Sound Collective. We are your home for connecting artist communities. You guys will be able to come here, utilize all the gear, and hopefully make some connections and collaborations that you guys can do in the future. Our guest who needs no introduction, here is my man Craze.
What up, guys? It's being recorded, so I'm going to watch what I say. Started DJing 50 years ago. Been doing this for a while. Won a couple competitions. You gotta take a lot of those lows out so the sub can sit nice in there. And then things just started happening, and then I was like, ooh, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that. If you're just thinking about that shit at night, that's cool. But I'll wake up in the morning, like today I woke up in the morning and I was like, I got an idea, we should do this.
Welcome to the Sound Collective, the community created to help make music your way. Located in the downtown financial district of Manhattan, our 28 Broadway facility is fully equipped to provide you with the tools of today's top industry professionals. Are you a DJ looking to practice for your next gig? A drummer who needs a place to practice your rudiments? Our practice rooms and workstations are the perfect place to craft your sound. Looking to host live performances, group events, practice sessions, or more? Our performance space is the perfect place to get the full Sound Collective experience. Need a place to record your next project? We have a professional, quality recording studio available and studio engineers to help you build the sound you are looking for. Unlock your ability to use all of these amenities and more with the Sound Collective membership. Have more questions? Send us a message to learn more.
What's up, guys? It's Nog. I'm here at Sound Collective for our Industry Mixer. This event is for all local DJs, artists, producers, and nightlife professionals to come and network with each other. Here at Sound Collective, we're going to be able to use a bunch of different production stations, booths, CDJs, and so many toys that are every audio producer's dream. This is the first of many events we're going to have at this venue with all these great artists and talent together, and you're going to have a chance to have all your tracks listened to and get some feedback as well, so stay tuned for more.
All right, I want to welcome everybody here to the Sound Collective.
We're going to spend the next 45 minutes basically talking through some new equipment, and then at the end, you guys will just get a chance to hang out, kick it, try out new gear.
The space is amazing. It's going to give students the opportunity to play with not just software, but hardware as well. Like hardware that has inspired people to create.
My favorite part of the night is really connecting with all of the DJs from the area, learning about their vibes and what they do and how they innovate.
Got a lot of info and news and updates and stuff that I didn't have answers to. To be part of this community is amazing.
This place is awesome.
Fortunato, and I'm from New York. I was looking to see what would be the perfect location and place for me to learn music and learn the skill of production. When I finally did walk in these doors, I fell in love with the facility. I've learned how to control habitual habits in terms of workflow, which was something that I really wanted to master. But just overall, just my perspective on what I thought was creative music to having a perfect structure in where now I can have the confidence to really say who I am in this industry. I am super thankful to have someone like the people that you have, like Morrissey, who I work with. He is just experienced, and the minute I sat down with him, he really understood my journey in sound and helped me control it. So he is just excellent at what he does, especially when it comes to helping someone out understand themselves, because I really didn't understand what I was doing. Stay.
I am here at Sound Collective,
and I took the intensive DJ course. I was looking to learn to mix music, see how everything works, get into music industry.
You learn everything from the equipment, the software, the hardware, how to beat match, how to mix in and out different songs, looping effects, and also of DJing if you ever want to become a professional DJ.
Coming in, just being met with that like welcoming environment definitely has enhanced my experience.
I really liked the space. I liked the environment. There's so much equipment that I feel like you get to just experiment. We have time before class and after class where we can just go out and play around with stuff, and I think that's been really helpful too.
I would recommend this course to anybody. It does not matter.
This is a good class for beginners just to like get a starting point. It's a great place to just learn what you don't know and where you could improve on.
Anybody can do it, whether you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s. If you love music, definitely follow your passion.
Well, the party is off to a good start.
With no further ado, a man that needs no introduction. I feel like he has shaped a lot of artists here in New York City. Alex English.
What is an EPK? It's like electronic press kit. A summary of what you've done. I'm going to show you a few things. If I was cold calling somebody and I didn't know who they were and I sent them this, it's an easy reference for them to like figure out who you are and what you're doing in your career. Another question that I get asked a lot is how to start a business. Depending on how much income you're making, you know, it might be time to start an LLC.
Hey, what's up? I'm Lefty.
And I'm Rich Furness, and welcome to Groove City. Lefty and I are both DJs and producers here in New York City. We also work here at the Sound Collective, and we run a record label called Quincy Boy Records with our boy N2N.
Yes, and we couldn't be more excited to bring this new podcast to you, where we bring DJ culture to the forefront, interviewing producers and DJs, telling their backstory, followed by a 30-minute DJ set. So we hope you enjoy it, and thanks so much for watching.
Much love.
Welcome everybody to Sound Collective for our A and R panel discussion this evening. Thank you to everybody who has shown up in person for the event. And thank you to all of those who are joining on the live stream. We're very excited for this. Just want to give a shout out to Sound Collective for hosting this event tonight. If you haven't, please check out the space. There's music education of all kinds, from musicianship, DJing, production, music business, and different programs that you can look into. You can also just be a member here and use the space and use the gear. And we also have an online platform where you can expand your music knowledge and education. But on to the main event. We're very excited, so make some noise for everybody coming out tonight and for our guests this evening. We're excited to share some knowledge on the A&R side, mostly on the dance music industry, but I feel like this will apply to all genres across the board. But let's start introducing our guests. So starting from the far end tonight, we have Marc Raziano here from Catch and Release. If you're familiar, a very great label. Excited to have him. Yeah. We have the legendary Mike Nervous in the building here, Nervous Records. And our good friend Hector Romero here from Orianna Records through Sony. So thank you for having him here. I kind of wanted to just start with a little background on the three of you. We have one microphone, so you'll have to share it. But kind of wanted to see, what got you into this side of the industry. A&Ring in the music business? Because I think all of you have been into DJing for a long time and putting out music and such. So what kind of got you into the A&R side of the business? And you can just take a turn and pass it down.
Check. Good afternoon. Good evening, everybody, actually. For me, basically it was I tried to remix and produce music, and I found out that I sucked at it. So I was like, all right, next best thing is picking music, researching, and I just followed that lane of looking for new artists, looking for new music, which also benefited me as a DJ.
I was going to say there's probably a good crossover there. Being a DJ and sourcing music, that it kind of lends itself very well to that.
And then for the 25 plus years that I was at Def Mix, it was all about looking for music and looking for artists to collaborate with the guys. And I just enjoyed that. I enjoyed that part of putting projects together.
For those who don't know what Def Mix is, give us a little background, because this is a very cool project that happened for a long time.
Yes, so Def Mix Productions is, I guess, one of the most important remix production houses that came out of New York, that was owned by Judy Weinstein and David Morales, and Frankie Knuckles was part of it, Satoshi Tomie. And I joined the the company in 1994, and as a young DJ, just someone that they also had a record pool called For the Record, so I was part of the record pool. So it was just kind of like this club that it was just, you would go to every week and get your new releases from all the labels for the record pool. But Def Mix was just one of those important remix production houses that remixed every major label, every major artist. My goodness, from Mariah Carey to Julio Iglesias to Michael Jackson. The list goes on and on of all the productions and remixes that David, Frankie, and Satoshi remixed. There were other guys as well that were part of it, but those were the core guys. So I had the honor and the pleasure to be there and witness that for over 25 years and learning, being kind of the right-hand person to Judy Weinstein, who's just like the queen of dance, electronic disco music as well. I also got my feet wet with working with a lawyer. Do you remember Steve Kapitko?
Oh yeah, Steve. He still owes me a drink.
Well, he's one of the. Well, he was very good friends with Alan Skeena, right? They were partners for many years. So I learned a lot when it came to the business side from Steve Kapitko, this amazing lawyer that we're talking about. So yeah, I really enjoyed the whole business side of the music industry. I mean, of course, DJing was my first passion, my love, and still is 42 years later or whatever it is right now that I've been DJing since I was 13 years old. But A&Ring and putting projects together, that was my lane that I loved. So I'm sorry if I went.
No, it's okay. Wanted the whole story.
Yeah. Then in a quick synopsis, that was pretty much it. So yeah, so I've been doing this for a long time. Love it more than ever. Still hungry. But what I can say is that if you're looking to get into the music business, there are different ways to do it. You don't have to be a remixer producer. There's just other ways to get into the business. And I think this place here, right here, you can come here and network and learn and meet people. I've seen some friends here. Morsi, that you're working here now is amazing. And yeah, so this is one of those places, because they're hard. We used to network at record shops back in the days, so we don't have too many of those left. We used to go on Fridays or whatever to go get and network with the local DJs. So I think this is a good place to find that and grow. So yeah, that's my little story there. I'll pass it on to Mike.
All right.
Well, I did grow up kind of immersed into the music industry because my father had records, and it was really one of the biggest distributors in the New York area. So my childhood on weekends was really surrounded by records. There's records. It's, 8-track tapes and 45 sound. The guys picking all the orders and putting in the boxes. So, but I was given a mandate pretty much and there was some fun memories of weekends in these kind of dusty, dirty warehouses, just looking at all the records. But I was given a mandate not to go into this business, just because my father had a lot of experience, and he knew how easy it was in this industry to just get waylaid and maybe get caught up with unhealthy influences. So I really was kind of sent into exile after high school. I went to college out in California, and then I was given a mandate. It was either medical school or law school, one of those two. So I chose law school. Period of time when I really did lose connection with the city and everything that was going on. But, the way things are, as soon as I got out of law school, I did work as a lawyer for, it feels like half a minute, but I did. And then I was going out, and this is the late 80s in New York. Manhattan was I feel like every era, whenever you first learn about nightlife in New York, is that magical era for you, because it's always got such great energy, and it's always new clubs and new trends. But that was, I think, a very fruitful time, because it was so many different influences coming together, and it was, things are segmented now a little bit. And back then, everything was integrated, and the sounds, hip hop and house music and freestyle were all really, you could hear them all in the same club in the same night. And you had celebrities, now celebrities, whatever, you got these private clubs, celebrities go, but you had celebrities mixing with just club people. And then you had this whole club kid, it's a sensational thing going on, being on TV shows, Geraldo Rivera. So it was just a very exciting time. But me just having grown up in the industry, I would naturally gravitate to the DJ booth. And so, I just, and you had these guys then playing who are so legendary now, but really playing on a casual residency basis for nominal fees. You could on one given night in New York see, Frankie Knuckles, David Morales, Louis Vega, Todd Terry, and that wasn't even the big ones. I mean, Robert Cole or David Cavillas, but it was just amazing. You kind of took it for granted. In retrospect, it was an incredible thing. But I would gravitate to the DJ booth, and if I heard a record I thought was good, I'd just start asking about it. And, again, now, imagine having a hot record. It's so competitive. It's so rare that a record comes up out of the ranks and everyone's bidding on it. I mean, I think the last one I think I remember a couple years ago, that one, Mal P. I bought Buy My Drugs in Amsterdam. Sold for 1 million euros. Unbelievable. One song. It's crazy. Back then, if you heard a hot track, you're like, oh, who made this? And the guy's like, oh, here, take this phone number, call him. Maybe he'll put it out. So I kind of did that, and then I just realized this is too good. And so I just kind of started a label. I reactivated an old label that my father had, and it just didn't seem to go anywhere. But then, the nervous thing, I mean, to be honest, it was just an inspiration. I did that logo as a joke, just because that word was so bad. Nervous back then, that was like the worst kind of connotation. Fashion, music, anything, that's a really negative. I said, this will get attention, it'll be funny. Of course, the music had to be good for it to work, if it had not been good music. But the first three releases was one by Roger S., the second one was by Kenny Dope, and the third by Todd Terry. So, it was crazy. I mean, and the logo was already being bootlegged as a T-shirt almost immediately. So I always feel like it was like a rocket ship. Like in 1991, it's like a rocket ship went off and literally just been in orbit ever since. So, it's 34 years later. It's crazy. And,
Amazing.
Still going pretty strong.
I think everybody was pretty nervous in New York in the 90s anyway, so it kind of worked out.
Heads up.
And by the way, you snuck this in there. Did you say you were on Geraldo Rivera? Or
No, but I knew the people. It was a bunch of club kids who were
Got
going
you.
to shows.
Nice. That would have been amazing. Just putting it out there.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Just kind of wanted to hear about how you got into the A&R side. I mean, you kind of have also a unique story, also being the youngest of the group, having kind of an artist background and producer background and now A&R background. Kind of want to know what got you into that side of the field and working in this side of the industry.
Yeah, for sure. I think it pretty much started when I was a kid. So I started playing piano when I was 5 years old. I started playing guitar and drums, and when I was 17, I was listening to a lot of hip hop, like, Mac Miller, Wiz Khalifa, Biggie, like all these people. And I would listen and I'd be like, how are they making these beats? Like, they're not just normal instruments. Like, there's all these crazy synth sounds, and I just became fascinated with it. So I guess to start, I downloaded Fruity Loops or FL Studio in when I was 17, and I started making hip hop beats. And then I got to school. I went to Penn State. I was a finance major, and I was just obsessed with production and music and making music and being around music and the DJ culture. And I think my first year in college in 2010, electronic music exploded in the United States.
Oh yeah, that was
with
a big time.
Avicii, the Swedish House Mafia, all these people coming to the United States for the first time. So I remember going to one of these concerts at school in the Bryce Jordan Center. I was like, oh my God, I want to play this. I started DJing in college. I started producing. I pretty much didn't go to class. I would be in the class making beats and getting yelled at by professors. So I guess that's how it started. Where I was just producing and DJing and making music, and I told myself, like, when I went to that first concert in the Bryce Jordan Center, I'm like, I'm gonna play in this stadium before I leave, and I did, and I ended up opening for Hardwell when I was a senior. So that was like a really cool experience. And then I left school and I was like, this is all I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do music production, and I'm gonna learn everything about the music industry. I'm just gonna go like live with my parents for a year, and that's exactly what I did. And then eventually I moved to the city. I started, I signed a deal with Armin van Buuren, like a small EP deal, nothing too crazy. And so I always have been like around the music space, and I knew like, okay, I'm either gonna be an artist or I'm gonna work on the business side. Like it's either one or the other, and there was kind of no option B. So I would say like midway through that deal, I started working at a company called Feature FM, which was like a data attribution company. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. Like the links in the bio play on Spotify, play on Apple, etc. So yeah, I started finding all these artists because you'd have so much pre-save data. I'm like, wow, this artist has 30,000 pre-saves and no one knows who the hell they are. Like, how do I let me connect with this artist, right? So I think a combination of my experience around in music production, having worked on the music tech side, and just developing like a lot of relationships and DJing throughout the city, they kind of all connected together. And I guess like the first breakout moment or like first big opportunity I had when I was 26, and I found a artist named Arizona Zervas. So he had that big song Roxanne. Did to like Universal a couple times, maybe 3 or 4 times, and they passed on it. And then when he finally released it, they were calling my phone, and and that was kind of like the start of my journey. And at that time, Atlantic Records was looking for a new...
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. How'd you break into the major label scene as an A&R? Because I can imagine that can't be that easy.
For sure. I mean, I think it came up straight up from bringing in a deal. Like, I just brought Universal the biggest deal of the year, and they passed on it. And then John Bellion's current manager was at Universal, and Gina Tucci, she was at Atlantic, and she was pretty much speaking with them on the publishing side all the time. And they're like, hey, we need someone new. And they're like, well, this kid just brought us this deal, so you should talk to him. And yeah, a couple interviews later and a couple remixes and Spotify playlists, and it's kind of like all history from there, and just never looked back. Yeah.
Amazing. Congrats. Yeah, it's got some exciting stuff. And now with Catch 'em Release, how long you been with them now?
About 4 months, I would say.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
So
how, if you don't mind talking about how you link up with that team?
So I actually I did all the remixes for Atlantic Records, commissioning them from 2020 to 2023, 2024-ish, somewhere around there. It was funny, actually, because the first day that I was in AR at Atlantic was COVID. So I started the job remote from home.
I remember you telling me that, yeah.
And I'm like, well, how the hell am I going to do this job? I'm not meeting anyone. I've never done it. And they kind of just like, yeah, you'll figure it out. So I just trusted my instinct. And that's basically like how it started. Wait, what was the question again?
Well, I guess how'd you get linked up with Catch 'em Release?
Catch 'em Release,
Yeah,
got
yeah.
it. See, as you can tell, a lot of ADD. That's why I'm working music.
No worries,
same
no
thing. So I was doing a lot of remixes. So I was reaching out to their team a lot for remixes from their artists, for the artists that we were working on. So I met a lot of like the managers over at AIDA and the managers like who were working in the dance space. And I remember I found an artist named Ahmed Spins, like way before he, like I would say like when his record Anchor Point was like a couple million streams. And I was like, we got to do this deal. Atlantic passed on it. So I was like, oh my God, this kid is so obviously talented. I flew to LA the next week and I met with Brett, who is Fisher's manager. And I said, you got to sign this kid. He's amazing. He's got no manager. He's got no label. Like, let's do it. And he's like, all right. So he signed him. And I think, he just like, I think the song Anchor Point has reached like 60 million streams now. And then he's like on a global touring. He's pretty much a global touring act. He is the brand Deep House Bible. So that's how I linked up with them. And then I ended up leaving the majors. I left Atlantic. I went to work for Republic for 6 months to like a year roughly, and I never really felt like I belonged there. So I ended up leaving Republic, and I met with Brett in Miami Music Week. I was like, hey, like, let's work. And Fisher was looking for a new A&R at the time, so he's like, yeah, you obviously have the ear for it. So, like, you know, one thing led to the next, and a lot of, you know, a couple months of sending music back and forth, signing some things, and that's kind of where it led me today. So I guess moral of the story is do the job before you have it.
Right.
Yeah.
Helps.
Yeah.
It definitely helps. You can't fake it till you make it always. Everybody remember that. I'm just kidding. Sometimes you can. Anyway, you guys all have kind of 3 very different roles, I think, in your A&R positions and how music comes to you. Do you still like travel to like source out people and like, you know, are you hitting the streets pretty hard on the regular to like find new artists to sign like that? Or is dance space is a little different than kind of the major label?
Yeah,
world?
I mean, like, I think we're hitting like all the major stuff. Like, you know, I'm going to EDC Orlando, going to EDC Vegas. I didn't go to AD this year, but like we had some team members out there. Yeah. I'll go to like different events, and there's obviously so many like venues in New York and Miami and like, you know, the Coachella weekends of the world. So like all the main big ones I would find myself going to, but a lot of it is done just at home on the computer, just grinding it out and just digging and digging. You know,
Nice.
Spotify radio is a great tool.
Yeah, Spotify. Are you guys digging on like SoundCloud still? Because I feel like that's gonna kind of come back as a good like platform for people to kind of put out cool bootlegs and such like that, which we're gonna touch on more a little later on. But I feel like that's been a good platform to kind of discover new music on. But is Spotify kind of the main driver still for like discovering new music by just listening?
I was gonna say that the way that I find a lot of stuff is also because I'm DJing, I'm touring, so I'm always networking with local DJs, producers when I'm out on the road. So that's one way I like to find music, is it's just networking. But then to the current question regarding SoundCloud, somewhat. But to what Mark said, I go through a Spotify rabbit hole, just hours, just going through different things and who likes this and where, you know, just go and I literally rabbit hole, just keep going. And then taking the Instagram page and saying hello, random, just say hello to an artist that I like and just go from there. Really simple. And 9 out of 10 times they get back to you and say, hey, how you doing?
Sure, yeah. Hey, I'm interested in your music. I'm going to leave him on read for a couple of weeks.
Mike might have some.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I do find, number one, if you're lucky enough to find a hot track, that can often open up a whole new source. Like when we signed the Mochak record, the Brazil thing just blew up. Like that, the flood of great Brazil producers who then started sending things to us was really good. So that helps, you know, if you find a track, especially from somebody like that who's so high profile and from an area not at that point being fully realized. But with us, it's gotten to the point, you know, we have this platform, TrackStack, which is
I was going to ask about this too.
Yeah, it's really useful. But, you know, it's just gotten overwhelming. I mean, on a weekly basis, it's always up to 1,000.
This is going to be my next question. How many tracks do you receive a month, and do you use TrackStack? So obviously you do.
Yeah, no, it's a really good platform. I mean, those guys, the guys who started were in ADE, really good guys. You know, like I was asking them, I'm still not totally sure what their business model is, because it's very useful, and they're not charging a lot. Money, right? Yeah, I'm just wondering. But these guys, really two good dudes. I think they're from England. Just in it for the love. I mean, they just love that they are providing the service.
It's like an organizational tool for labels, pretty much, and DJs to receive promo, I guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the thing is, when you get to that point when you have a platform that people are submitting, it gets easier because most of the people kind of know what music, you know, you're about. So they're submitting a lot of things that are in the ballpark. But obviously, you know, you have to. At this point, you know, we have an A&R, like a satellite staff of 4 people. And so I'm just always asking them to please keep going through it. Filter, and then they'll make comments, and then we can all check each other up. So that's gotten to that point. But I mean, before then, you know, a couple years ago, just going through, you know, I do find that the live appearance, like just being in a club, and this is going back to grassroots, you can't replicate that. Like being in a club and seeing the way a track impacts a crowd.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. I mean, some A&R people, the guy who works with me, Andrew Salzano, that guy is a really good ear. Sometimes he listens and he'll just pick them.
Yeah.
That's a special ear. But in general, you can't know until you're in a club and you see the way it impacts the crowd. But that's a lot of legwork. I mean, and usually it's late. Those peak moments are like 3, 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So you got to put your time in.
That's true. So how many are you guys getting a month each demos sent to you, do you think, roughly?
There you go, Mark.
A month? I would say I'm going through like 500 to 1,000 a week.
Damn. Okay.
So like maybe like 300 to 500. Some depends on the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting them from TrackStack, just getting them from inbound.
Do you still get stuff sent directly to you, or is it just all TrackStack?
Yeah, no, all.
So TrackStack still holds up, and people can feel confident sending stuff there.
For sure. I mean, like, yeah, like if people ask me, like, just shoot me a message, and like I'll give you my email. The TrackStack we go through, or I go through, and like Mike said, testing live is the best way. Like if I'll go through a TrackStack, and I would say maybe like only 3 to 5% make it through to the rest of the team. But when there is the one that's really good,
everybody.
The first thing we do is, hey, the Fisher, play this. Let's test it live, or I'll send it to friends, and be like, hey, what do you think of this? Like his friends who are DJing out. And I DJ myself, so I'm testing in smaller rooms, like 300 person, 400 person rooms.
Nice. So you're getting all these tracks sent to you. What is it that grabs you that you're like, here? Is it? I mean, and how fast do you know that? How fast do you recognize that you're going to be into this song for potential signing to pitch to the rest of the group?
I think a lot of the times it's pretty instantaneous. It's kind of like it's either a fuck yes or a fuck no. Excuse my French.
No, that's all right.
But
and what are you listening for? That's like production value, quality of the song, the vibe of the track, all these things kind of all mixed into one.
I think like overall feeling and energy, like something, obviously like you want stuff that's going to stand out and not sound like a basic, regular, like I feel like I get so many Latin tech house records with the same drum loop, right? Like I guess there's not like one specific thing I would be looking for, but it's just something that makes you like perk up out of your seat or makes you feel something.
Right.
And makes you like, yeah, I guess music's all from emotion in my opinion. It's obviously technical too, but if you feel it, there's probably going to be a lot of other people who feel the same thing. So
nice.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I kind of put the would I play it in my sets, that kind of, for the most part, not 100%. That's one way for sure that I like to judge a record that I get. But like he said, Mark said, it's pretty instantaneous, that you feel it right away. And then for Orianna, which we are a Latin electronic label, I'm looking for, it's a little different with this label because I'm looking for stuff that has a balance that'll work in the clubs and will stream well. Every once in a while, of course, we'll do a club record that's just it's just a good club record. But nowadays, they want me to try to find stuff that has that balance that'll stream well and still work well in the clubs, or is it just a streaming record and it's a good one, we'll sign it. But that balance, to find those records that have and stream well, those are those special records that you really go for.
Yeah, well, this kind of brings me to another question I had lined up here then. If you're looking at kind of both of those sides, do you prefer getting radio mixes or extendeds, or does it not matter? Because I feel like that's always a tough thing to decide, because some people are like, send me extended. Like I personally release with a lot of UK labels and they love getting the extended. They don't want the radio mix first. But here I feel like in the US, everybody's like, just send me the radio mix first. Let's cut to it and hear the sounds,
Yeah, I mean, I do think that's probably still a distinction between major labels and independents. You probably, because, they still want to work radio. Like I think, the majors still want to get on, Sirius XM and BPM. Yeah. So, and that does not necessarily, guarantee sales or streams or revenue. I mean, it guarantees sound exchange money, which is good, but it doesn't really guarantee that thing is a hit. So I always feel like, in this industry, if you're looking for the radio edits, it's not the right mindset. That's still a pop music world.
For dance music, it's got to be the full experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the thing is, I'm always suspicious if somebody sends a radio edit, but different worlds. I mean, again, that's not, Universal or Atlantic, they want that stuff. They want to feed BPM. But, you know, the reality is that doesn't always, those playlists, the BPM playlists, yeah, I mean, it's crazy because SiriusXM is like pretty much in America, I think the only radio format that makes sense. But I don't know, I'd be curious, the BPM versus like Diplo's channel, like Diplo's channel I think does incur more revenue because you're getting more of the core fans. You know, and even that channel is a little bit commercial. It would be great if there was another channel, you know, that really represented nightlife, you know, the full-on.
The underground channel.
Yeah, you know, but that doesn't exist.
Yet, Mike.
Yeah, let's try. But yeah, I mean, that's a distinction. But if a guy, you know, a producer coming up, it's all about that groove. So, you know, that's not radio edit formatted. So, you know, I think in general, I think the safest thing if you're in this industry is look for something that a groove, you can play it. You want to play it for 10, 15 minutes because it's so good, it's going to drive people. You can always add it's still the old fashioned thing. You get a hot track, put it out and let it buzz up, and then you can add the vocal on top. You know, that's a formula that's tried and true, still works.
Nice. So kind of you got something else, Mark?
No, yeah, I just think it's so funny because like when I used to work for majors, it was like I would get yelled at if I would send an extended mix, and then now if I don't send the extended mix, it's like where's the extended mix? So I guess you know it's the moral of the story, send both. But if you're like a DJ oriented or like electronic label, like we said, a lot of times people are testing records, so you want the extended if you're gonna test it. But
yeah, I was gonna say really quick. For my team, I'll listen. I know the extended version is definitely going to work, but when I present it to my team in the A&R sessions every week, I always present the radio, the edited version.
And that's going to be with Sony most of the time.
Yeah. Every Tuesday we have our meetings, and I play the short version.
We don't need 60
just get to the
seconds
point.
Of drums.
Yes,
we do.
Exactly.
Nice. So this is kind of silly, I guess, but as for all of us producers who do pitch records to you, I mean, do you have any preference over like MP3 or WAV files? And if somebody sends you like a SoundCloud link, should it always be downloadable?
SoundCloud for sure. Press play, it plays right away. Get to the point. Love that. That's the best way to get demos for sure.
And you always want to be able to download it right away?
No, not necessarily. No, I actually wonder why people allow their demos to be downloadable. I was like, it's this old school thing. You're giving it away. Yeah, exactly. I always wonder about that. But
well,
no.
private link.
A private link, yeah, for sure. But yeah, SoundCloud is one of the best ways for sure. Yeah. That way I can go back and reference it, and if I want to go back to it, click and play. You know, like we said, we're going through hundreds of demos a week, and you just want to get to it.
Yeah,
right away.
If somebody sends an attachment, are you just going to skip it, or are you going to download it and listen? Because I know a lot of people are picky about that.
Or if they do send an attachment and I download it and listen to it later, and then it's not tagged properly, I'm like, who sent me this?
We're going to get into that too. Yeah, track tagging.
Track tagging,
metadata, really right? Yeah, you got to know. You got to have the song title, the artist name, features, all that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not sure if the guys have.
Yeah, I personally like it downloadable. Because, you know, if I hear it, I'm like, oh, this is sick. I want to test it. Like, and there's a show like in 3 hours. Like, I need the download. So, might as well make it downloadable. I always say that, but like every place is different, and I understand too for some artists who, you know, don't want to just give out their extendeds without being asked. But even if we do download it, we keep it pretty tight. So it's not like we're just sending it out to people.
Nice. It's just for yourself to try and test it out in the real world. How much do you guys actually want to know about the person pitching to you in regards to their statistics and stuff like that? Or do you just want to hear the music and then judge if you want to sign it? Or you're like, okay, I like this track. Let me look at their social media numbers. Let me look at their monthly, listeners on Spotify followers. Is that relevant to you, or are you just kind of, like you're willing to kind of take a chance on a smaller artist that doesn't have numbers that'll prove to be a successful release?
Yeah, I've signed stuff with artists who have 2,000 followers, and I've signed artists who have like 3 million followers. So for me, it's about the music, but it obviously does help if you have a bigger profile, because especially if you're like, I can only speak for our label, right? Because a lot of our stuff is being tested by, bigger artists. So there's ways to break it, but like, I can understand where if you're like a major label, because I've been there before, it's like, they pretty much only have the ability to put money and marketing into it. So it's harder to break those records without there's something already there.
Platform.
And even still, when we sign the artists who like don't have much going on their own, it does make it harder, but like it's not an immediate no just because they're like a smaller artist.
Is it a harder push when you bring it to the A&R meeting with the rest of the team and you're like, hey, I really like this record, but this artist isn't that big yet, you know, like, do we want to still push this through? Do you have to like fight for that? And they're like, oh no, everybody else is kind of shutting it down, but you got to push it through.
I think maybe for him, them two, maybe it's different, but for me, if we want to do it, we're going to do it. Our team's pretty small, so
nice.
If we really believe in it, we'll do it.
It's just the reality of social media. From the world that I come from, there's an automatic reflex against it. Like, it should not be about that. Right. It should not be about how good the person looks, and it should not be about the show aspect and how they're dancing behind the DJ booth. It really should be about the music they make. But that's not the real world. The real world is that it, all that stuff makes a difference. But in terms of the quality of the music, it doesn't. So, sometimes, again, because we're doing a lot of releases, but sometimes we will actively, really try to find people who have virtually no social media following. And it's just obviously someone focused totally underground, some guy in Glasgow, whatever. I mean, underground stuff. And it gives credibility to what we're doing. And I think it's, it's just a show that we're really willing to represent things that aren't necessarily being absolutely impacted so much by the imaging, because the imaging is such a big part of everything. But at the end result, again, in terms of strictly numbers thing, I mean, as an independent, the bottom line is really important to us. It's got to be, at the end of the day, you got to do something that's going to keep the company going. So that's all about revenue. So it's the bigger social media artists don't necessarily sell the most. It's just, that's what, it's a fact. And, we've had artists who started with us, have huge, big hits, 50, 60, 70 million streams, and then they continue on as massive superstars, but then I see the music continues to diminish because they're focused so much on the shows. And that's, again, the reality. Now they blew up, so they're making so much money on the shows, they can't focus on the music. But as a record label, we walk both lines, because I quickly realized that it was like 10, 15 years ago. I started with Winter Music Conference when all the events were promotional, because you're just selling the music. No one paid to get into clubs or paid DJs to play. We're all trying to push the music. And then it was like overnight, all of a sudden, these big full-page ads in like Miami New Times and everything, all the shows were for pay. And so it just changed overnight. So I kind of shifted. I didn't leave the label, but I said, this business model no longer makes sense. You got to make money on the show side too. And the irony of that is that the artists often who do the biggest numbers on shows sometimes do the fewest numbers on music as well. So it's always this dichotomy. And the music too, like sometimes the music played during the biggest events we do are the lowest streamers. But the music that doesn't get played at any clubs, it's just quality. It's got musical elements, it's got sonic elements that might not work in a club because they're weird, but they're just, they're for the streamers, because that's a whole nother world. So, I would say it's just, there's no right answer, I think. But you can't deny social media. It is what it is. So you got to take it what it is. I mean, I know for, you two working in major companies, those guys don't know anything. They just want to, okay, how many Instagram followers? 1 million? I'm interested. The reality is it sucks. It's derivative. And you can hear it, and you're like, oh, man, look, they completely swiped that guy's stuff. No one's going to know it. But look, they're taking a run. They won't sell much, but they're going to get a gig like crazy from that.
All that is true, 100%. Another aspect that I like to, when I speak to an artist or producer that sends a demo, I want to know if they're a real producer. I want to know if they're a musician. I want to know, what their background is and how they came about. I want to get to know them a little bit more, because I'm always looking for guys that are real musicians, producers. I mean, the DJ guys are great. They know how to rock a great beat and do a track. But I want someone that knows how to create substance, good music, well-produced music. And I think that's, you find somebody like that, you feel like, all right, maybe this is someone that's going to develop and grow, because they're really into the production part. It's not just loops or whatever, just a track, which is not, I'm not taking away from it, but that's the other aspect that I like to your question of what I like to know from the artist.
For sure.
Yeah.
Which kind of segues into my next question perfectly. Should people, if say somebody's cold emailing you a new demo and you're not familiar with their project, should they send you any additional information or links, or just keep the email short and sweet? And how many tracks is too many?
To that question, 2 to 3 max.
Yeah,
that's enough. Yeah, number one should definitely grab my attention, and in the email, if they're just cold emailing me, please just a little quick synopsis, a little brief bio of yourself and what you've done, what are the labels you've released on. That helps. All that kind of stuff helps for
Short
sure.
and sweet though.
Short and
Few
sweet.
sentences tops.
Absolutely.
And then a link to like a playlist or something.
Got one the other day, Monday. I think it was someone told me, I released on Spinning, blah blah. I just remember the email now, and press play on the SoundCloud link, and I liked it, and we're going for it. So
Nice.
yeah, short and sweet.
How about you guys? Are you guys looking for any additional information? If somebody like sends you something random, are you looking to see some more links, like a website link, or like some more stats and stuff like that? Or you kind of just want to get straight to the point?
Well, the thing is, it's so easy to find out about people. You get their name, you just Google it, put it in
look it
Instagram or Facebook, and there it is. But it's always helpful. Every little bit counts. In terms of communicating, there's so many ways to reach people. I find that people who DM me or something, I remember it, and then I do remember when I see the person's track come up in track stack. That's one thing. Also, it's very good to make sure your Instagram name is the same as your producer name, because then you can be recognizable more easily. But and the tracks. I mean, a lot of people send a lot of tracks. It's like 10, 20, and it's just not productive because you can't get to them. By the time you get to the end, your ears are burnt. You're moving to the next one. So I would say take a shot. Be confident in like the bunch, the 4 or 5 that you feel best about. And the worst case scenario, if those get turned down, so you send them again. I feel like we've had a lot of producers who continue to submit things every few months, and eventually something works.
Nice.
I personally don't mind how many they send. I mean, one person this week sent me a SoundCloud playlist of 60 tracks, which was a little overwhelming. But like, I'm a little psycho. I'll probably listen to all of them, right? So I just love music, but it's definitely like to his point. Like by the time you get to like number 30, you're like, come on,
Number 9.
So
yeah.
I would try to keep it between like 5 and 10. Especially because sometimes you get to like the 7th or 8th, and that's the best one.
There's a secret banger in there. Yeah,
secret
that's what
banger.
happens.
But yeah, also my biggest pet peeve, like ever out of anything, I can't tell you how many artists who don't have an email contact in any of their, like you go to their SoundCloud, you go to their Instagram, you go to their Spotify, and there's no email contact. I'm like, how the hell am I
good
supposed
to know.
to get
Like in the bio, email me.
Yeah, just make it easy.
Yeah. Interesting. Do you guys expect demos to be mixed and mastered upon pitching? Does it help? Is it like a big bonus if you get something mastered and you're like, okay, cool, this sounds done. Like, we love the track, it's finished, we're signing it. Or like, if somebody said something a little rough, there's kind of a vision to be had when you're listening to it. Is that like a factor that kind of will turn down a demo right away?
I mean, yeah, we're listening to a lot of demos, so like if it's not mixed and mastered, it's got to be like at least 95% of the way there. It doesn't have to have like a $4,000 mix and master, like professional Manny Marraquin mix, right? But it's got to be there. I mean, there's so many tools it's so many tools to make it sound like loud enough at the very least.
Yeah.
So, especially for us, we're testing them.
Yeah, you guys
so
want something
it's
you
like,
can play out, so it's got to be competitive.
Want to play ball.
sounding. Nice. All right, that seemed like a pretty agreeable across the board answer there. So let's say somebody sends something to you. Maybe you listen to it once. You stream the SoundCloud link. They see that you listen to it, but they don't respond to you. What's a good amount of time for them to follow up with you? Like reasonable, even though maybe you've already decided you don't want to sign it, but they probably want to follow up at least from you, and they give you a casual, nice follow up. Like, what's a good window for that? And should they send the link again? Like, what's too soon for that?
I don't think it's ever too soon to send another song as long as it's a different song.
Right. I'm saying, I guess, in this sense, the same song again.
If they don't know it. Don't send the same song twice.
If they don't have an
That's
answer.
really annoying.
Yeah.
But you can follow up, like, I don't know, 4 to 5 business days.
Nice.
I mean, I think this applies to all three of us. There's so many different ways to communicate with people. Also, like I know Hector DJs still, and you're DJing. You know, I throw a lot of events. So if you, especially if you're local, you know, if you're submitting demos, you can, you know, really support the company or the person in ways besides the music, and that's a way to get yourself just kind of in their face. I mean, if you go up to Hector in the club, say hello, and you submitted the demo, it's very easy. Now you're definitely going to remember that person.
Yeah. FaceTime is so valuable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you guys are obviously interested in testing out productions and stuff that you receive for demos, but is there any leeway for like, hey, we want to like A&R this on the creative side and take this record to a better place? We think what you sent is really good, but we think it could be improved in these directions here. Does that happen often still, or is it kind of more just like one shot? We like it, we don't, and that's it. It's your chance to get it. Like, is there still an opportunity for somebody to send a record and get feedback from you to potentially sign it that maybe you didn't love about it at first, that you want to kind of guide them towards a signing?
I would say at least 95% of the time. You want to add, you know, something. You want to add something to it. It's a person. I mean, the highest level producers. Some guys. I mean, we work with Louis Vega. You know, Louis Vega. He A&Rs himself. There's not really much I can do.
Yeah.
to make his stuff better. He's got enough going on that he gets it. But in general, you want to have some little extra flavor, and most of these tracks are being sent out enough that even if it gets signed, you know, you want to make sure, especially a producer who has some name, maybe not A-list, but has some recognition, he's sending it out to other people too. So you just, as a matter of self-respect for the label, you want to brand it as your sound in whatever way, you know, you can.
We've come across instances where we'll get a demo and let's say the singer, we're not really into the singer, you know, the song is great, and we're like, man, and we'll talk to the producer and say, would you consider finding you a singer or even a top line singer that'll help, you know, make the record grow, boost it up. Yeah, so we've done that a couple of times, and I love that part of the A&Ring.
Yeah.
That's
the creative side.
Creative side. Really, I really enjoy that part for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, my answer is probably pretty similar to Mike's, but there will be times when I find like a top line and I'll send it to a producer, and that's a whole different process. But if they already have one, or like it's just a non-vocal instrumental record, I would sometimes like mostly it's like 95% of the way there, but you know, there's occasions where like, hey, fix this, and then they get it to the next point, and voila.
Speaking of vocals, how do you guys feel about receiving splice vocals in your demos? I really want to test this one.
I don't mind it. Yeah, as long as it hasn't been used 100 times.
That's the problem. All right. You want to add into that, Hector?
Yeah. Well, with Sony, they pretty much won't allow it, you know, unless it's so obscure, I don't know, that I can fight for it or something. But yeah, I've been pitched demos that have the same vocal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times, and yeah, it's just I would just rather pass on it for the most part, unless it's amazing and yeah. But
Nice.
yes, I frown upon the splice stuff. That's my thing.
But the thing, I mean, vocals, and that's also a really easy way to distinguish a project. You know, there's so many great vocalists out there. As a producer becomes more and more the artist, the vocalists from the past are still there. It's just a matter of, you know, sometimes they can be complicated, but like we had this track, Bedouin did a track, and they had Rahsaan Murphy as an old demo vocal on top, and it took like 14 months, but we cleared it. So that's coming out. So you know, that's right away going to have a star. You know, Rahsaan Murphy, geez, a vocal unreleased by Bedouin. It's crazy. But it is a good way to make tracks stand out because, like you said, everyone's using the same software, Splice and everything.
Yeah.
So it's a little extra effort, but there's vocalists out there, and they're easy to contact, and you know they're not that expensive because they don't get that much work.
It's true.
Yeah.
I also think like look at Sammy Vergi, his biggest track is a Splice vocal. I'm pretty sure. So
It definitely happens. They sneak through, which leaves a little hope for everybody in there. Anyhow, so speaking of vocals again, so you guys all work with, your labels. how often do you come across like a bootleg from a catalog song, you know, from your label that you're like, hey, there's potential here to actually re-release this? And like, does that happen frequently? And what are the odds of actually getting a signing from that? Because I know bootlegs are becoming really popular again. It is the year of the bootleg.
It happens like every week.
Yeah. Do you get a lot? Do you get a lot of like pitches of bootlegs of your catalog already to the label, or is it just like random bootlegs getting sent to you?
No, it's mostly just like either popularly done or samples that are used that are sent.
And if it's like a hot enough track, would you like take the steps to clear it and go through all that process if you really believed in the record?
Mm-hmm. We've done it.
Nice.
The thing is that I think that people don't understand though is like it's not our choice whether like we can try and clear it, doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
For sure. A lot of approval, especially with those older records that have a lot of people involved.
That's like I feel like one of the toughest.
The publishers.
The whole process needs to be changed in some capacity. I don't know how, but
yeah, I mean, I do believe if you're willing, it costs money because sometimes you have to get lawyers involved to help to try to pitch it and lobby for it, and it takes a lot of time. Everything potentially. I mean, maybe not a Paul McCartney vocal. I don't know. But in general, things are gettable, but it takes a lot of time. That's one thing we find. We did this track. This guy Superflu did a track, Believe. It was a share record, and there was a bunch of different publishers. And in America, you can just get a mechanical license in general from Harry Fox Agency. So you don't really have to get any approval. You just get a license and you're good to go. But for Europe, it's not that way. You have to get it cleared by the publishers. So you pretty much have to do it because records are released worldwide now. But in that case, the vocal was by a woman. It was like an indie pop thing on Secretly, and they just didn't want to do it. This group Superflu from Germany tried to clear it. They couldn't clear it. These girls, they didn't want to do it, and they just gave us a price, which seemed crazy. And so I figured, all right, they're going to give us that price, and they're going to be negotiable. And it just wasn't. We just kept saying, come on, like negotiate a little bit. And they just said, no, you don't have to do it, but that's the way it is. So we paid the price, but ended up paid the price, but the record was big enough. Yeah. I thought it was going to be a little bigger, but it's still, I think it just hit 8 million streams. It's
a good catalog record, though.
Yeah, that'll keep going. And, it's a great, I love it. I mean, it's definitely going to last. Yeah. But it's a puzzle. And then you have these records from like old catalogs that exist, old New York-based independent labels. It's a lot of older people own these things. They don't know what to do with it. Not everything is like West End and Prelude where they sold that to these bigger companies. If you look hard, there's a lot of really cool 12 inches that were like huge Red Zone records or huge like Studio 54 records. Those people are all reachable, like communication now, and you just do your research and find them, and you get it done. There was a record, Plez, Can't Stop. You remember that? Huge Dave Morales at Red Zone. So we found this guy, and this girl, Yulia Nico, found him from Berlin. She found him. She met him. The guy was like 77 years old, and he could barely get to his phone in time. She kept calling him, and he never got to the phone in time because he couldn't walk so well. And like we had to like hand deliver the check, but we did it, and that's coming out I think in February. So that's a creative part of the industry, like finding cool stuff no one has. But you got to do a lot of like legwork to get it done.
Definitely. We've been fortunate with a couple of bootleg records that I'll get as a demo because Orianna is owned by Sony. So there's a lot of Sony major label stuff that DJs are reworking. And so we've actually done 3 that we've had. And believe me, it's still not easy internally to get clearance.
I'm sure.
Even if it's Sony owned, it's a whole process. It takes months. It's not overnight. But at the end, we've worked it out at least 3 times already so far. So,
nice.
I love that part.
So it definitely happens.
It does happen, yes, very much so.
So take your shot out there because you never know. And like Mike was saying, kind of anything is possible if you can reach the people to get the clearance, Yeah. But everybody's going to have different demands.
Yeah.
So let's say you A&R record, you sign a record. What's the time frame that you give a song to kind of build enough traction to where you and the label are like, hey, we need to push this to the next spot, Like there's got to be like a window, but without something like randomly happening, like a buzz thing that just kind of takes off on its own. But like put out a song. What's like the window that you guys give a record before it's like, hey, or is it just kind of free flowing? okay, we're building traction here. Let's pump it up a little bit. And what are the places that you're doing that? Where are you pushing a record to the next level when you kind of start to get traction on a casual release?
I guess all three of us, it comes down to the DJ, doesn't it? To get that buzz going from the DJs first. The playlisting stuff, yeah, that's important as well. But if the DJs are supporting it, then you go from there and just.
So that helps a lot, because I was going to ask.
Yeah, if it doesn't start from DJs.
If you have content of like really big DJs playing your stuff at big shows, does that help your decision-making process when you kind of get a demo? Say, oh, they're playing this in Ibiza or in these big festivals, Coachella or something like that. Like, is that something that helps build the confidence in signing a record?
I mean, it definitely does, but that's the magic of this industry. I don't think anybody can predict it. Like, as much as you can say everyone thinks it's going to happen, when it happens and then it goes viral, that's like a beautiful thing. Yeah, we released that track by Luffy in early October last night, and then it was okay. I mean, I remember Oscar G, one of the actors we work with, told me, he said, Mike, that's a really good record. He was supporting it heavily. Nobody else really was. And then on January 4th, Tale of Us played it, and it was a clip from Tulum.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that was it. That clip got like 5 million views. That literally made that track. Now it's up to like 90 million streams. But before then, it really wasn't. And then Animate did the mix. He got involved with it, so it was really cool. You can't force that stuff. There's no way. So but the way that stuff happens is by having a good process. Like if you're doing good work and people respect the music and the label, it'll happen eventually. So it's all about building that situation where that magic can happen. But like what you're saying is, how long do you wait? There's no rule. I mean, I mean, Fisher, this guy has a big audience, big influence. You would think that he could literally decide what's going to be major. But even he, I mean, probably because he plays a lot of music, he probably doesn't know himself which one is really going to, like kick in.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the times at the end, we have a pretty good idea, and you'll hear something, we're like, oh, this is definitely going to go. But a lot of times when you have that feeling, you sometimes end up being wrong. So there has been so many times where I'm like, I think all three categories where one, I'm like, this is going to be huge and it's huge. This is going to be huge and it's not huge. And then I'm like, this is terrible and it's huge. So
you never
I try not to
It's
guess.
so unpredictable.
Yeah.
And something I feel like I've heard over the years from different people in this side of the industry, but it's like, do you ever sign a record because you love the vocal and you're like, all right, we'll sign the record, but like, let's make plans for big releases, knowing that the remixes will kind of carry the release to the next place.
Can you say that more?
Like you ever get like a record that you really like a lot, but you mostly just like the acapella, and you're like, hey, we should sign it, but let's make plans for remixes around this. And it's kind of like the initiative from the start for signing a record.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't typically, like, if I get something where I like the vocal but not the production, like I'll have them go back in on the production. So I wouldn't say that I like just signed something for the vocal. But if it's so undeniable, like there are times when the vocal is so undeniable, like it doesn't matter what the production is, it's going to be a smash. So
yeah.
It's
and then
like,
there's just open opportunity after that to reuse
and
it a bunch.
then after there's open opportunity.
Nice.
We don't try to think about the future like let's remix it in the future.
Yeah, that's like a money pit scenario too. That's a dangerous game. But that was the game. Like major labels 20 years ago, they would have like $50,000 to $75,000 remix budgets, right? You would see it's unbelievable. New Jennifer Lopez ran to 5 different DJs. Yep. What did it do? Who knows? But back then it was like funny money. They didn't care.
Yeah. I guess they were like putting it in different spaces. How do we reach all the different micro genres of the dance scene? Because like she's very pop forward, and then how do you reach the underground with the remixes? I guess I could see that.
Yeah. I mean, some parts of the industry, like the Billboard dance chart, still exist.
Yeah.
So how do you get a record number 1 on that dance chart? And like Elton John, he'll do a record. You still get
kicking, man.
Yeah, you get big names. Doesn't matter what it sounds like, but as long as the names are there, someone's going to bring it number 1, and Elton gets, it's for his ego and everything. So that part of the industry, it's a strange part of it, but it still exists.
Yeah, nice. Well, we are going to be wrapping up shortly. I wanted to open questions to the room. If anybody has anything they'd like to ask, please come up and talk into my microphone. So Morsi was the first to raise his hand. Come on up.
What's up? So, we were just talking about vocalists, and I actually have an amazing vocalist, Glorious, with me. And do you ever have a vocalist send you acapellas and say, "Hey, do you have any artists interested in making a track to these vocals?"
Yes, please send them.
Yeah, it's unusual, but that's good.
All right, yeah, it was quick and easy. I never thought about that, but there you go, vocalist.
Mike said it's sort of unusual, but yeah, I say yes, go for it for sure. If you're writing an original, yes, please do. Send them.
And it's also, that's a song. So even if it doesn't become that vocal, now you're submitting a song too. You know?
And then, as we know, a lot of DJs, they're always looking for vocalists. They're good at producing music in the bedroom or whatever, but they're always like, adding a vocal can add something, another element to it. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's probably a million DJs and producers that would love to get acapellas as a starting point.
I would say
yeah, go ahead.
No, real quick. You know, because demos are can be somewhat disposable because everyone's using the same kind of plugins and everything. But a vocal's unique. I would say you should copyright. You know, like. Oh, good. Everything that stuff. Yeah.
The lawyer telling you.
I think you also have to, like, when you're sending it out, you have to, like you just said, producer, right? If you're sending me a vocalist and then I'm sending it to a DJ, they're gonna they're gonna think it's their record. So, like, is it your record or is it their record? And I think yeah, so you just have to, like, establish that, I think, from the get-go. Because if you have a vocal and then you send it to, like, Martin Garrix and you're like, "Oh, no, I want you to be the producer," it's like, it's not going to happen.
Right.
To like you guys, like in A&R, would you be able to connect me to the producer versus, like, maybe me connecting to the producer? Because I feel like you guys know a lot of producers, so would it be easier?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. If we think it's, like, you know, a fit for someone, you just be like, "Hey, send it to them." If they like it, then they'll be like, "Hey, connect each other."
Yeah, these guys are often point men and point people for even people outside of their direct circles. You know, there's people that are always just connecting people here. So it's like A&Rs tend to know a lot of producers and DJs, and there's always a connection point there. They say, "Hey, this would be great for you. I know we don't work together, but you should take this acapella and work on it." Any other questions in the audience? We got one in the back there. Come on down. You can totally ask 2 questions. That's fantastic. No, you're fine.
So they're both actually, like, very unrelated. And I kind of wanted to get more of a glimpse of, like, your job specifically as A&Rs. How would you say you guys are individually evaluated? And how do you deal with rejection from the rest of your team, but it's a track that you're personally really passionate about? How are you evaluated in terms of your efficacy as an A&R and what kind of value you bring?
Yeah, me personally, I was hired because of, myself, I was hired for my ear and for the style of the music. Although my partner, Dusko Justic, at the label, we do listen together. And sometimes he'll actually, if I feel really passionate about a track, he'll let me sign it. But for the most part, we try to agree on it. Yeah, it happens. Yeah. And what else was it?
Oh, but I did.
Oh, right, not the second question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so please. Cool. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't pass it. Oh, you have it. All right.
Cool. Question about, like, testing music. You guys listen to, like, hundreds of songs. What kind of systems do you guys listen to that music on and evaluate it? I know, Hector, you mentioned, like, really well-produced music is something that's important to you. Is there any value in having people send demos that are engineered or designed to listen on a certain system that you are comfortable with, that you always go to evaluate good music?
I listen on Yamaha HS12s, but if it's a good, well-mixed record, it'll sound good on anything. Obviously, for dance music, like, you want to hear some sub. It's not as easy to hear through a computer, but, like, even more so if you have get a dance record sent to you and it's smacking through the laptop, you're like, oh, okay. So.
And you're just listening for the vibe of the track too, to make sure that the whole overall sonic and sound, not even necessarily the detailed sonics, but, like, just the energy and the feel of the song in general should grab you as an A&R. We have another question up here. We'll get to you in a second. Pedro, yeah.
Hello, guys. I'm Pedro Cañas. I'm an A&R for Midtown House. It's a music label under the Orchard Sony Music. We've been running for about 4 years now, quite small. Out of the 60 artists, we have 3 that have been signed to Nervous. That's been great. But still, very small. And so my question to you as like an A&R as well, Mike, is the business model for Nervous. It seems like you guys have releases, maybe like 30 a month. Catch and release, a bit more limited, maybe 20 a year, 30, or maybe 20. So the question is, yes, at some points it's about the quality, but is it really about the numbers sometimes as well? Putting out as much records as you can to see if something sticks. And what advice do you have for a smaller label like mine?
Well, the philosophy of putting out a lot of the music a month, obviously, quality control is important, but I just feel like the attention span of the consumer is so short right now, and the whole space we're in is so filled up. So my feeling is the more we can place we have, the more chance we have getting attention. It was the same philosophy when I started the label. All the record label, all the 12 inches on the wall were very bland, and it was like dark muted colors, and no one had any logos. So I said, you know what? Let's make it stand out. Let's use yellow and a logo, and it worked. So, I just feel like we do get a lot of good music. I mean, the reality is it's so much good stuff. So I feel like why not keep putting it out? Come on, the more the better. But a producer who's going to sign with us has to understand that. Do you have a better chance of getting more attention on a smaller label? Probably. But this world we're in right now is so weird. I mean, so many labels are just really, 1 or 2 people. They're focusing on that person's own music themselves. So how do you get in a situation where you're going to get more attention? I do believe that the records that we're releasing now are getting a lot of attention, and we get a lot of support from Beatport and Tracksource with banners. So you do have a better chance, as opposed to not sort of anyone on this panel, but just you're giving yourself at least a solid chance of getting noticed. That's the number one thing. Releasing something and even getting attention, because there's so much music coming out. It's unbelievable how many releases. So how do you get the leg up? At least go with someone. If you go with us, you're definitely going to get seen. Is it going to work? I don't know. There's a lot of other factors involved, but that's my feeling.
Yeah, I think just different labels have different models for numerous different reasons. Like their team's probably a bit bigger than ours, so we're only releasing a certain amount because we want to be able to give the most attention to each one of those releases as we possibly can. And we want each one of them to get the best support they possibly can. So, I think when we're pitching to like Apple and Spotify and all these companies, like they know we only have one every 3 weeks, right? So like they're probably paying attention to each one of those. Whereas if we were releasing 20, like there's nothing wrong with either way. Like it just depends on what you want to do.
You can only pitch so many.
Yeah, you can only pitch so many. So, yeah.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Eve. So I just started producing, and I'm at a point where, I want to establish myself as a producer and get some music out, but, I have no Spotify listeners, I have no SoundCloud listeners, and I know for a lot of labels, the music speaks for itself. If it's good enough, it'll get signed, but, I also work in the music business, so I do know that a lot of it is about numbers. What is your advice to do in the meantime? Because would it be self-releasing and seeing how that does, or be patient and wait for the marketing from a label? Yeah.
What kind of music are you producing?
Tech house and minimal deep house.
I think basically it's really up to you. If you really want to, I would first, get don't do whatever you want to do, but it's always good to get some ears on it of some people who've released a lot of records before, and just because someone doesn't want to sign it may not have anything to do with the talent. And I've seen people have their first release do millions of streams, so you never really know. So you gotta just get started, right? You can always release it, and if it does shit, I'll just take it down, right? So or you're not happy with how it went, then like start over.
Yeah, I mean the release, but that's down the road. I think sometimes you're gonna get a better response from other producers. Like you can send to us, but other producers might hear it in a different way, and then if they recommend to one of us, like you gotta have step by step like your goals. Like the first goal should be going to a cool club and hearing the track. That would be that feels great. So that's the release, actually having released in a commercial sense. It doesn't mean anything anyway, because if you do it, is it going to make anything? Most tracks these days, and it's amazing. I mean, we release a lot. I would say 90% are making less than $200. So I would say start small, like getting the respect of other people, higher name producers. That's a good goal first.
I was going to say that, and you said you were in the music business as well, so the expectations. It's not easy,
Expectations are below the earth's crust.
Yeah,
which is
but again,
good.
it can happen. But it can happen though. Yeah. That's why, and you're doing it for the love. Go for it. Yeah. So good luck.
Thank you.
Yes, in the back there.
So I'm a producer. I have plenty of records that are finished on my laptop, and some I've sent out to get professionally mixed. Hundreds of dollars just for them to kind of sit on my laptop and get rejection. Other projects that are fully finished, and I've done my own self mixes and masters on them, and they sound good but not good enough. Should I send those demos out to labels, because you guys had mentioned that you your own imprint on records sometimes on demos? So if I go and I get a master from the studio, it comes back, and then I can't really undo that whole process, and I just spent $250 on it. So what would your advice be to kind of like navigating my self mixes and masters and demos?
I would say for now, before you sign the records, use something like Lander or some kind of tool. Just don't spend that money right away. And then if it gets signed, then maybe sometimes the label will pay for the mastering. Sometimes. So yeah, save the money right now up front. Yeah.
There's plenty of resources online for you to buy remakes of songs, and basically you can take the exact master chains of famous songs that and like, and they sound pretty damn good. So the mixes, obviously, if you hear your own mix, it's different, but as far as a master is concerned, and yeah, I mean you can find it without, you just got to get scrappy and look for it.
I'd like to chime in a little bit, actually. I think what would be helpful too for you in your scenario is to have like a close network of people that you can bounce your ideas off first before you make those kind of investments.
Yeah, send it to this guy. He's good.
Thanks.
He's talented.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate you.
And so is he. I've heard his stuff.
But yeah, like, it's good to have a soundboard and be like, hey, what's your reaction when you on a first listen to this? Should I pursue this? Should I pitch it around? If you're starting to get confidence from other people and other voices, then take the step. Or like they're saying, like, get these plugins that can do like quick mastering for you, and then try to get a really good mix, and then use a cheap master essentially, and then send the demo. What I do personally is I'll send a demo to be like demo mastering in parentheses next to the track at the end of the track title, so that they go, okay, cool. It's not like properly mastered, but it's loud enough to listen and try out in a club. That would be my advice. Any other questions in the room? Yes, sir. Come on down.
How's it going, guys? My name's Sikoli. I'm a DJ for 14 years now. I've been producing for like 7 or 8 years. I'm very fortunate to have worked on like that side, but also the creative side, having worked with a ton of great players in the scene, and sort of just know that this is where my life is going to be within this industry. I guess my question is, so I have an album coming out on 11/11. We actually just sent it in for distro. We're self-releasing it. It's a project that I did with another producer and a vocalist. So altogether, there's 3 people, 3 artists essentially involved on the project. I guess I just want to know your thoughts on like receiving promos that have multiple people associated with them versus like a solo project. Given like I do have solo projects, but would you guys like automatically write something off if there's multiple people signed on it, or like is it something that you think about like in that way? Or because like something we've talked about is like, how are people going to take this that there's 3 artists on this? Are labels going to want to sign 3 different people? Like, how does that work? Like, it's my first big release, so it's just a question that we had.
I don't think it matters. I think, like, look at the record Move by Adam Port has like 5 artists on it. So
That's a single though. Like in an album setting, does it change anything, or it's kind of just general?
no, I don't think there's any rules. Like, people do collaboration albums. Like, if two heads, 3 heads it makes it better than the one, and who cares? Yeah.
Cool. And like just to build on that,
I think that's actually one of the best strengths you can have, is knowing your strengths and weakness. But like, hey, you're amazing at melodies and synths, but like your drums are lacking. Like, don't be afraid to use help until you can get your, it sounding like the best on your own.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. And in terms of basically we all have different styles. Obviously, when you're working with other people, people have different sauce that they bring to the table. So it's sort of like a give and take when you're collaborating with someone, as you guys know. I guess the album that we're coming out with, it's fabulous. We all love it, but we're kind of doing something new in a style that is like different and unique to all of us, versus like my solo tracks are more geared to like, minimal deep stuff. Whereas the album stuff is more like chill housey, like Ibiza, loungy, easy listening, timeless vibes, because that was our goal with it. We wanted to make something that was listenable, that my grandmother or my aunt can listen to and be like, wow, Joe, great job on this. So like, versus my solo records where they're like bangers that I'm sending out like to people to like play and be like, oh wow, like he's got some bangers. So like, I'm just like in a weird place where I'm trying to figure out like, if people are gonna look at it weirdly that I have this type of vibe on the album, but I'm coming out with like other type of like heavy bangers on the solo side.
I mean, use an acronym. It's pretty common. You should come up with an acronym for the chill stuff, because it will throw people off. Right. Especially when it comes to people like DJs who are buying music, like downloading from Beatport Track Source. They know a certain thing. They're gonna, they're gonna like subscribe to that guy's music, whatever, and you'll miss out on that if they start thinking you're kind of all over the place.
Once you build the brand hard enough, I guess, then you could probably have more freedom to do stuff like that, right? Like, if you become known and you start like doing well and people start to know who you are, then you have a little bit more flexibility to drop what you want to drop. But now that I'm kind of like a nobody in a sense, like, I guess like the Alias would be like a better bet.
Alias on the other music, I definitely think so. Especially the three of you together, that should be a whole name too.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you guys for that.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
No doubt.
Are albums happening quite a bit in your world with your labels? It's mostly singles game for you guys. But I know it happens. It definitely happens out there. But I was just curious about you three.
I mean, I think we work with some legacy artists, so it's almost like we do it out of respect to them, and out of that, you're gonna get hopefully a single will pop, and then you do remixes from that. Like we did an album with Louis Vega, 2 albums with Timmy Regisford. We have a 10 City album coming out.
Nice.
A new artist with Teddy Douglas. Oh, geez, I forgot. That's really good. His came out, but those are artists from another era.
Yeah.
The concept of artistry, people doing albums, is very unique, and I just don't think the audience, look, people, we just know the reality. People are listening for like 15, 20 seconds, go to the hook, and keep it moving. That's the streaming world we're in. So an album, the odds of having that actually listened to properly are so rare. But I think you do it as a company or as an artist, it's a matter of self-respect. Like you're doing it to show your credibility, show your artistry. Sometimes you do things, I mean, so much of this industry is chess moves. You do things because it's going to lead to something else. So if you put an album out and it's well respected by your peers, you still might not be signed, but you'll get signed eventually.
Yeah, it's a good kind of calling to put a bunch of stuff out there. I feel like a lot of the younger, kind of more up-and-coming producers too now are excited to do album projects because they haven't really lived it that long, because it's mostly been a singles game for so long now with the digital era.
True.
So it's interesting. Any other questions? Yes, we got one in the back there.
What's up, guys? Dante Severio. I'm actually the vocalist on that album. Yeah, so curious, sending other things to you guys as A&Rs, are you looking for those vocals to be raw and you want to see the raw talent, or are you looking for them to be finalized kind of sometimes, you might want it to sound, or what are you looking for kind of?
You're talking about just the vocal?
Yes.
Yeah, I would get it pretty polished. It doesn't have to be like 15 layers, ad libs, every single thing, you know, in one vocal chain, but like you're being judged based off what you send, right? So like the better it sounds, the better, higher chance that you're gonna have. Like I listened to a record that had the vocal stems, and like one was engineered and one wasn't, and like it's like night and day. So
I guess to you guys, it sounds everything you're used to listening is already and worked on, so that when you hear the raw, it's kind of like a downgrade in a way.
just depends. Like I'd have to hear it, right? It could be like super great raw, but I don't know. I haven't heard it.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
I feel like sending something they can send to a producer right away that they can drop into a track and work around. So something probably polished is probably going to get you a faster result.
And
you know,
just send it. Like I'm happy to give out my email. I'll give you my opinion.
Yeah, nice. All right, we got time for one more. If we got any more in the room, and we do, come on up. Last question.
All right. Hey, I'm Frank. I go by Franke. Been sending some stuff out, and I've gotten it back or gotten a good response, and then they want to do the master themselves. Like, I paid for the master already, so I'm just kind of curious, like, what's going on there?
Like they want to get the track mastered.
They've done it themselves. Like, I guess didn't much.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're paying for it, then let them do it.
Wouldn't read too much into it. Like,
Do you feel confident about how you're mixing and mastering? I mean, maybe you still have something to learn, or nothing wrong with that.
I had someone else do the master.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So. Right. Did you like the final result that they sent you? Because you get to approve. You should be able to approve it if you can. Get the final say as the artist.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the other master was good. It was just,
okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I was just interested, like, if that meant anything, or like, I don't know.
I wouldn't take it personal.
Yeah, exactly. Don't take it personally.
I feel like some labels have like a mastering engineer that they particularly like for most of their catalog, and so they'll kind of have the same person they use quite frequently, and they say, "Oh, our person will nail this," you know.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that happens quite a bit. All right, well, we are going to wrap it up. Huge thank you to our amazing panelists tonight for joining us. Big thank you to all of you for joining us and coming out here to Sound Collective tonight. Really appreciate the turnout. Again, I'm Lefty, and thanks for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time. Peace.